the latest is a report also in the New York Times by Peter Baker about uh, Trump is losing his fucking mind. First of all, there's no question about that. And as Baker points out, Trump publicly disparages cabinet secretaries, former aides, career officials working elsewhere in the government. But now this psychopath is taking aim at people still working for him inside the White House complex by name. This is what Baker wrote. As Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman sat in a stately chamber testifying on Tuesday, the White House posted on Trump's official or the White House Twitter account a message denouncing Vindman's judgment. His fellow witness, a woman that was sitting there, Jennifer Williams, had barely left the room when the White House issued a statement challenging her credibility. And as Baker points out, in Trump's Washington, as opposed to just your normal kind of sleazy backdoor dealing Washington, D.C., in Trump's Washington, where attacks on his enemies, real or perceived, have become so routine that they now pass unnoticed. This is what has happened. Trump has normalized the kind of behavior that would put anybody else in a fucking institution and medicated. Anyway, the shit that he has done has now become so routine that disparaging people who are still working for him might not seem all that remarkable. But for the fact that Colonel Vindman and Ms. Williams both still work for the very same White House that was publicly denigrating them. I mean, it's just fucking unreal. And as you know, Trump is a fucking crybaby. Not only is he a coward and a real bastard, but he's a crybaby. He just cries when somebody, or he tweets out his ugliness. Oh, it's not fair. They're not being fair. Have you ever heard a man use that phrase, an adult man use that phrase as much as Trump does? You're not being fair. That's not fair. This from a fucking guy who has never been fair to anybody or anything except his daughter in his life. Never. Anyway, regarding Miss Williams and Colonel Vindman, Peter writes this: with the president's allies joining in, these little scum fuckers that like Jim Jordan, like his cabinet member, like I said the other night, people who have an ongoing contest about who can hold Trump's dick in their mouth the longest. It is. It's a constant contest. What, Kathy, too graphic? That's the absolute fucking truth. Where did he get these people? With the president's allies joining in, the two aides, Williams and Vindman, found themselves condemned as nobodies, plotting bureaucrats, never Trumpers, traitors. And in Colonel Vindman's case, Jews, his family, who fled, first of all, the craziness in the Soviet Union against Jews, and then fled Germany because of the murderous craziness in that country. Vindman's family had to fucking leave. Vindman is a Ukrainian. In Colonel Vindman's case, as an immigrant, Trump says he must have dual loyalties. You dirty, filthy pig, Trump. You filthy pig, you. And as Peter writes, even for a president who rarely spares the rhetorical howitzer, that represents a new level of bombardment. It's staggering to me, just staggering. I watched Sondland today, and I'll get to that in a minute, but oh my God. William Inboden, a former national security aide to President George W. Bush, that crime family, Inboden said, quote, "This White House appears to be cannibalizing itself. While many previous White House staffs have feuded with each other and leaked against each other, this is the first time in history I am aware of a White House openly attacking its own staff," he means the president, White House president, "especially for merely upholding their constitutional duties." Well, Mr. Inboden, you crazy fucker, you're a former national security aide to George W. Bush, who had an attorney general or a lawyer, John Yoo, who said, along with the vice president of the United States, that pig fucker Cheney, that torture is now an American foreign policy instrument. And you're complaining, Mr. Inboden, about the other psychopath, the one currently in power, after your boy Bush and Cheney and you decided it's okay to torture people. Torture. And then the fucking Cheney, whose unbalanced daughter is now the third leading Republican in the House, Cheney had to sit there, and one wonders if he sat there playing with himself watching torture videos. So, Mr. William C. Inboden, former national security aide to George W. Bush, when you say, quote, "The Trump White House appears to be cannibalizing itself," end quote, that's probably a good thing. God.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.